Good morning, everyone. And as Orson Welles used to say, welcome to another edition of my morning talk with fun and games in mind. I just made that up. Well, I'm trying to be more relaxed. I'm not really too uptight, so I've been told. But, what I do, real estate closings and providing legal counsel to buyers, sellers on property is serious business. So I take my business very serious, and so should you. So should you. It's not like you're buying a car. In addition, a sale, a purchase, buying your partner's half of the property, whatever the case may be. So, anyways, I had a survey posted. What was it? 5 days ago, and I asked readers what would they like me to address, and we spoke about. Well, I considered several topics. Capital gains had 14 votes. Fideicomiso versus foreign-owned Mexican corporation had 12 votes. Surveys, no lien certificates, appraisals. That's another 11 people wanting that. Owning property in Diane, Mexico. Diane, well, I didn't write that. Negotiation of a price of a home and the process up to the point of signing a contract. I'm not going to do that. No, I'm not going to do that. Scott Hoffman was asking me to teach a course. I don't teach courses. I mean, know-how is my know-how. You want to find out how to do this? I'm not being disrespectful. And yes, I could pretty much put out like like a recipe, like you baking a pie or something. And but that's not the purpose of Baja Legal Advice. I provide legal services. I promote empowerment information. But I first and foremost, I promote my legal services. I'm in business. I want to do business like just the next guy, and make a living out of it. That's what it is, okay? But, I guess if I don't have 1,700 articles already there on Baja Legal Advice, or over 1,700, probably 2,000, I forgot. I don't have, I lost track of that years, a while ago. But at any rate, you have free accessible resources. You want to become a closer, get some training. You want to handle this yourself, buying or selling. You're the buyer, you're the seller. Well, good luck with that. I don't teach courses again. I'm not a teacher. I would like to have real estate agents come to a class about ethics, and I would give them a whole bunch. Yes. But without further ado, and this is 5 minutes past 10, and this will be only a 30-minute talk. Let's discuss the topics. Again, from the top, capital gains. I'm a little curious on this because I wonder, and I hadn't paid attention, if it's those 14 people that asked me to discuss capital gains, have they ever read any of my articles doing with taxation, with capital gains? I have gone into details, much detail, as to what those capital gains, what is capital gains in Mexico? What is the tax rate? Who gets to pay for that? What are the tax exemptions? What are the article of the law? What is the law? What are the regulations? What does the law say? What do the regulations specify? What are the conditions? Who qualifies for that? You have those articles right there. Just look up there and it's magnifying glass and click enter and type in keywords, and you will find a whole bunch of articles. Same as with the Fideicomiso versus foreign-owned corporation. I just wonder, I may just have to do a survey because, see, I shared this articles, this information for you to benefit from, free resources. But it seems that people read only that which they need, and I understand that. Why would you read about, say, estate planning when all you want to find out is about fideicomisos. But fideicomisos and estate planning are so, associated one with the other. It's so they're intertwined that you cannot discuss one without the other. So anyways, I may not be able to discuss everything, but here it goes. Capital gains. Who pays for capital gains? The buyer or the seller? Well, the seller, because the seller has property, supposedly under a fideicomiso or under a corporation. If you have a corporation, a foreign-owned Mexican corporation, and you're selling the property, well, I hope you don't get punished in the process. Why? Because most foreign-owned Mexican corporations that I'm aware of created a corporation to skip the fideicomiso. 90% of those corporations were created under ill advice by someone idea or suggestion that was the thing to do. 90% of those corporations are a mistake, and probably a costly mistake, but we'll get to that. But again, capital gains. Capital gains is usually 35%. Usually 35%. Why? It goes down to 20%, and let me explain why. If you're a couple, and you're not married to each other, but you're splitting, and you want to have your partner buy you out, or you're just buying whatever, and so that half of that portion goes to the other party. Okay, let's say that you're the man, and you're transferring this to your girlfriend, and you figure like, well, it's ours. I will transfer this to her. Well, the fact is that even if you have two people on the deed, and let's assume that you have two people on the deed, the fact that you're not husband and wife has an implication. It does. It does, because if you're giving something to someone who's not your husband, your child, your parent, you don't have an exemption. If you're gifting your half to the other co-owner, there's a gain, and that's how the tax code sees that. So you, the recipient of that gift, will have to provide an appraisal among a bunch of other conditions, and you will have to, Alicia, I will get to your question later. If you're gifting that to someone, that's someone who will receive this, has to modify the fideicomiso, has to notify the bank, has to provide every condition as if you were creating a brand new fideicomiso. Even though it's the same one, someone is detaching itself from that fideicomiso, there will be one owner probably, and that person being gifted that property, that half of the property, will have to provide an appraisal. The appraisal says the property is worth $200,000. The other person is being gifted something that is worth $100,000, and guess what? That's a gain. It's like you winning a lottery, you're winning betting the racetrack. You pay taxes in the U.S., in Canada, and Mexico. So 20% of that property value, of the appraised value, but it's 20% not of the if the property is worth $300,000 and you're paying 20%, you're not paying 20% on the $300,000. You're paying 20% on the half of that, which is $150,000. So 20% of $150,000 still is $30,000. So careful. You have to contact me in order to discuss what are your options in order to offset capital gains. But capital gains, I discuss capital gains. There's an exemption for homeowners. Article 93 Income Tax Law, Section 19 Roman, specifies that the homeowner who has not sold a property, its main residence, over the past 3 years, will be able to exempt 700,000 UDI from the gain, which means 700,000 UDI. UDI is worth something like 4 times something. Don't quote me that. I'll look it up. If not, do the topic search on Baja Legal Advice, and type UDI, and look at the word of UDI, multiply that word for 700,000, it will give you 4.5 or 4.7 million pesos. Divide that by the daily exchange rate, and if it is 19, you're probably looking something as to $230,000 tax exemption. So if you bought something for 200,000 and you're selling that for 400,000, you have a profit. You have a $200,000 profit, pretty much so. So you would be taxed 85% of that, or $70,000. But if you're the homeowner, you have not sold on a house for the past 3 years, that being your primary residence, and if you have legal status and a tax ID number, plus utility bills with the address of that property matching your name, you will qualify for that tax exemption. If you have more than one owner in the house, that being a co-owner, being your spouse, you're both selling, you multiply that benefit times 2. So if you have, say, $282,000 tax exemption per homeowner, multiply that times 2, and you had what, a $200,000 gain. You have lots of cap space, so you're gonna go tax free, no capital gains, if and when you do qualify. Again, this is for the homeowner, not the owner of a vacant lot, not the owner or partner of a corporation. Homeowner. So let's not confuse each other. Okay. Now, I have often discussed Fideicomiso versus foreign owned Mexican corporation. A lot of people say, well, heck, create a corporation, you don't want to pay the Fideicomiso. I don't want to say what just came into my mind because I don't want to insult anyone. Again, I believe 9 out of 10 cases who have created a foreign owned Mexican corporation, those were mistakes because you were ill advised. Among other things is that you could probably have simplified your situation by creating the Fideicomiso. Oh, I didn't want to pay a Fideicomiso, but guess what? You're still paying, or you should have been paying anyways, because creating a corporation is not free. And even if you get one of those cheap, no-frills jobs of $1,000, and you probably had an accountant file and give you a tax ID number, which I hope you have, and then with time, someone was able to, get the property transferred to the corporation, and now it's owned by corporation. Fine, okay, but 9 out of 10 of those corporations are not active. They were put to sleep, and that's illegal. You only can do once you can put a company or have a company being active for 1 year only. 1 year only, okay? And then you have to resume your activities, and guess what? You had to file monthly tax reports even with no income. So the time that you want to buy it, and then, oh boy, capital gains, we just discussed that, but I kept this for last, because if you created a corporation, the Mexican corporation bought the property, but you paid from your own income from the United States or Canada the amount for the purchase. You paid the purchase price with your own funds instead of the corporation, because you're supposed to have a Mexican corporation, don't you? And a Mexican corporation has to have a bank account, don't it? You know, and the Mexican corporation is the buyer. So who's supposed to be paying for that? You or your corporation? Your corporation. So guess what? If you lent the money and you didn't even have minutes of the corporation where you proposed to the members of your corporation that you would be lending the money because the company in Mexico has no funds, then you would have created a paper trail, but you failed to do that. Now there's chances that the notario, by the time the corporation sells that property to someone else, may not be able to deduct acquisition costs. What is the acquisition cost? The price your corporation paid for the property. But since the corporation did not pay for the property, who did? One of the company owners. But that's a different thing. One thing is you, the individual, and the other thing is your corporation. So you two have gone through the right channels, creating a checking account, funding the checking account, having the minutes authorizing you to lend the company the money, and then have that trail established. So you're running a whole bunch of risks. But again, a corporation is only justified when you do have a business, when you have a large property to develop or sell or manage, whichever. And yes, you have to pay a monthly make monthly tax reports. But the corporation is only for a few cases, not for everyone. Now, the other thing is when you, as I said, you create a corporation, you have to pay a notary for the fees to create a corporation. You had to pay an accountant to get a tax ID number. You had to pay an accountant at least $30 to $50 every month to make tax reports. And you pay the man $50 a month for 12 months. That's $600. What is the average annual handling fee for a Fideicomiso? $450 to $550. And you're paying how much for your accountant? $600. Did you actually save a dime there? I don't figure you did. The other thing is, when your corporation sells the asset, and let's say that it will be, the notary will accept the fact that even if you lend the money, that the corporation will be able to deduct the acquisition costs. And you bought for $200,000 and you're selling for $250 or $400, you will be taxed 85%. Except if you made any improvements, any investments, then if those expenses are tax deductible, you may be able to deduct some of those costs. But outside of that, you're paying 35%. If you had created a Fideicomiso, you would be saving on the capital gains up to $232,000 to $238,000 per owner of the Fideicomiso. So I don't figure that I need to discuss so much more as to why the Fideicomiso instead of the corporation. Again, go up there, use the magnifying glass, do a topic search, type in keywords, and look at taxation, and you'll find a bunch of articles on the topic. Now, surveys, no lien certificates, appraisals. I see a lot of interest here, 11 votes. Why are those required? Because the law says so. The notario will not formalize a transfer property, an assignment property, a purchase property, a sale property without those certificates. Why? What is the purpose? Well, the survey to establish if the property to be sold, if its meets and bounds and its acreage are still consistent to the previous purchase, that none of that has changed, that there's no encroachment of property lines. Okay, that is necessary. No lien certificates. Well, the word says you don't want to buy a property that has a lien. Even if you did agree with that, there's options such as, say, a mortgage being paid out of the purchase price from escrow. That's different. But no lien certificates, that is to prove that not only there are no attachments, no taxes owed, there's no litigation, there's that the property is free and clear. So you need those no lien certificates. It's also complying with property tax and assessments and every other obligations with regards to third parties and the government. And finally, the appraisal is to establish the worth of the property. The great majority of cases, the appraisal is much lower than the actual market value that you agreed. So the appraisal is to determine what is the amount to be paid. If the appraisal were to be higher than the actual sales price, the notario will charge capital gains, will establish capital gains on the highest, that being the sales price or that being the appraisal. But most of the time, the price agreed by the parties is higher than that in the appraisal itself. What else? Without those three elements, you're not able to transact property. A notary will make sure of that. Okay, what else? Owning property and dying in Mexico. Well, you have estate planning in the Fideicomiso. Then I say that when you, the husband and wife, decide to buy property, there's a clause where they have to name each other their own reciprocate um, beneficiary. So if you're a couple, husband and wife, and if you only establish that at the passing of the trust beneficiary owners, the property will be transferred to the children or to alternate beneficiaries, being that a charity, your siblings, or whomever. What happens to the other half of the Fideicomiso? You should have named each other, husband and wife name each other their own reciprocate beneficiary in the event of death, and so that the property or the portion belonging to the party that dies is transferred to the surviving one. And then at the death of the surviving spouse, the property will be transferred to the children or to the beneficiaries. Now, this is not automatic. This has to be done. If you're the descendant or the beneficiary of a Fideicomiso, you cannot transfer property without you updating the Fideicomiso. The Fideicomiso is not updated by itself. You have to do that. It's 90% of 95% of a brand new trust, the exact same thing, except that the beneficiaries will not be paying a property acquisition tax because that was paid already, and it's the same Fideicomiso. It's just getting updated. There's no transfer because those beneficiaries were named there. So only property that in Mexico, well, if you have a Fideicomiso, there's a clause there, as I said, where husband and wife name each other, or if there's just one owner, it must include a clause naming the alternate beneficiaries at the time of passing of the only property owner under a Fideicomiso. And that is the state planning benefit of a Fideicomiso that you do not have under a corporation. Am I making myself clear? You do not have that under a corporation. So another asterisk against having a corporation. That was a mistake. I hope you don't have to regret that. Scott, should buyer apply for a tax ID number at the time of purchase? No. The tax ID number you can get prior to actual transfer of the property. You would need a tax ID prior to selling the property. If you're going to go out in the market and sell the property, you should be getting a tax ID by then, okay? And no, you could have bought the property 6 months ago and sell it today, and you only own it for 6 months. But what does the rule say? That you have not sold your primary residence over the past 2 years, but that does not mean that you should have held on to it for at least 2 years. You could have had it for 6 months, 3 months, whichever. But the rule says that in order to get that tax exemption, you should have not sold your primary residence over the past 3 years. Okay? What else? Negotiating of a price of a home and the process up to the point of signing a contract. Well, as I said, Scott, I'm not teaching a course. You need to get a closing agent. Make sure that you get a qualified one, a competent one. It's not just a paper shuffling so-called closing agent. What else? There were 4 other topics that people wanted to discuss. Switching trust banks. That's a good question. Oh, actually, it was I who inserted that and proposed it. When do you have to switch banks? When it's convenient to switch trust banks? We have 5 minutes left. You should consider switching trust banks when you're buying property from an existing Fideicomiso. The seller has a Fideicomiso. And probably a Fideicomiso has 5 years or 35 years left. And you know that Fideicomisos today are supposed to be for 50 years renewable, but there's still a number of houses out there in the market whose agents are so incompetent that they haven't noticed that the Fideicomiso had expired. And by the time they find a buyer, if the buyer doesn't know and the buyer is bamboozled into following the seller's advice and the agent's advice, to retain them as their own closing agents and counsel, they'll get stuck along the way. Why? Because they simply didn't do their job. If Fideicomiso is expired and it has to be renewed prior to being transferred to someone else. End of story. Simple as that. So when should you consider switching banks? When you're still going to be paying around $2,200 maximum to create a Fideicomiso. By the way, if I, as a Mexican, buying property and I'm buying next to you and you're buying property, both of which are the same price, the only difference between what you pay and I pay are only $2,000 to $2,200 because of the Fideicomiso. I don't need a Fideicomiso, but that's the only savings. We paid the exact same thing, okay? All other items are applicable for both of us. The fact that we're Mexican doesn't mean that we get free rights. It's just that the Constitution forbids or prohibits direct ownership of property along the borders and coast of Mexico by foreigners unless they do so under the Fideicomiso. Okay, but again, switching banks would be convenient when you're taking over, when you're being assigned the ownership of a Fideicomiso, which is with a slow bank, a expensive one, slow reacting bank. So simply just get a brand new trust with a bank that works. I heard that BIMSA is a good bank. I know that Banbajío is to me the best. Scotia is not taking any new business. I don't know if Santander, Bancomer, I'm sorry, Bancomer is not a good choice. It's too cumbersome, too bureaucratic, too slow, too expensive. HSBC has a number of Fideicomisos, and it takes over a year to get anything done with them. Trust me, I have proof, and some of those listening to this know by fact that I represent them, and it's taken over a year for the HSBC to do anything. Banorte, oh boy, don't. Banorte is slow. Expensive, not necessarily, but it's low. They often have representatives in Los Cabos, and they often are let go, and then they have no representation, and it takes forever to get anything done. So switching banks, you can do that at any time, but if you were to switch now without having to transfer, I'd advise not to, because it's if you're going to be transferring property, amending or adding or taking out one of the owners, then yeah, switch banks. Or if you're assigning property by selling the property to someone, well, it's the buyer's privilege to switch banks if he wants to. But it's best to have a bank that actually works for you, that is easy to deal, that will react soon upon your needs, and whose fees are reasonable. So closing costs, boy oh boy. Okay, I have 1 minute. Closing costs. Let's see, I believe I have something writing here. Closing costs, usually, well, I don't have anything there, but I can recite it. Closing costs are usually the following. Paying the city the equivalent of 2% to 2.4% of the worth of the sale. If you're buying something for $100,000, you're paying at the city, depending on what city. Tecate is 2%, Tijuana is 2.4%, Rosarito is 2.4%, Ensenada is 2.4%, Los Cabos, that is Cabo San Lucas, San Jose is 2.4%. La Paz, I'm not sure if it's, I believe it's 2%. Anyways, that's one closing cost. The tax acquisition, it's a tax acquisition or property acquisition tax, 2 to 2.4% over the sales price. The next thing is the Fideicomiso fees, which are around $1,900 to $2,200. The other is appraisal, survey, and no liens. That changes from city to city. It's very expensive in Loreto. It's much cheaper here, up around $550 to $650 in Tijuana, Rosarito, Ensenada for the three items: the no liens, the appraisal, and the survey. $550 to $650. Someone complained and said, "Oh, I paid 2,600 pesos." Well, it may be. I'm not discussing that. I'm saying that this is what it is over here. Okay, I don't know what you paid, but you're entitled to your opinion, and you should have evidence of that. But what are the closing costs? Tax acquisition, property acquisition tax, 2 to 2.4%. It's called as ISAI. ISAI is short for property acquisition tax, and it's goes like this: ISAI. ISAI is ISI. I'm sorry, ISAI. ISAI. We discussed the no liens certificates, the survey, and the appraisal. Next in line is the bank's fees. The next is notary public fees. They will give you a quote based on the word of the transaction. The next is paying for registration duties with the public register of property and commerce. That is done at the end of the transaction when it gets transferred and it's recorded by the notario. Some banks, if it is not Banco Bajío, you will be asked to pay a fee to the federal government, which includes a filing fee for recording the transaction with the Foreign Investment Commission. The other closing costs may be escrow, if you agree to escrow. I always promote escrow. I always suggest and endorse escrow, and it changes depending on the amount of transaction, by usually 800 to 1,200 for transactions from 50,000 to 350. That changes per location and the word of transaction and the escrow company, and that's pretty much it. Again, go online, check the magnifying glass up there, type in keywords, look for closing costs, and you'll find a whole bunch of those. Okay, so that's been it. It's been a rapid fire type of a conversation, and let's see, has anyone asked anything in particular? Scott, I already answered to your question. Sure, buyer ID, what that I did respond. Who else? Should a buyer apply for tax ID number at a time purchase? No, only prior to the sale of the property. What else? Scott, there was someone else who sent me a message here. Alicia. Oh boy, that is so long. Alicia, you have to wait. I won't discuss this online. Established corporation. Okay, I know. Anyways, I wish I could have conducted this video downstairs at my patio, but unfortunately, my neighbors, we all have dogs, so I have a Shih Tzu and 3 cats, but they're quiet, and you can hear park now. There's houses which are so very close to each other. My neighbor to my left has Pomeranian, I believe, and she barks like crazy. And she was nonstop until a few minutes before I actually went on live and decided to work from here. My other neighbor to my right has another dog, Australian sheep herder or whatever. He barks like crazy too. So, but anyways, there were no distractions. We discussed a whole bunch of stuff. Again, I'm not teaching courses. I've been asked that. I'm not singling you out, Mr. Huffman, but it's not my job to teach anyone. It's my job to provide legal services, to provide advice. And if you have questions, you can always contact me, 619-409-2610. My perspective here is to give you information, to give you empowerment, to give you many options. If you don't retain my services, just make sure that whoever you choose is worthy of your trust, not because he's just another attorney. I'm not just another attorney. I'm specialist in Fideicomisos, okay? And I've been doing this since 1988. So, no, I'm not new at this. I didn't make this up. And I have an excellent track record, and I aim to keep it that way. And finally, those agents blocking me from representing buyers. Last word of caution to everyone out there. A purchase proposal is not a purchase agreement. So to those agents forcing buyers to enter a purchase proposal with earnest money, the non-refundable type, that's illegal. By the way, purchase proposal is not an agreement. That is not enforceable. I know some clients feel handcuffed by this, and they have, but don't sign an agreement without you having advice from someone like me, okay? I'm not the only one doing this, but I'm probably one of the oldest and most experienced. I'm available. Do get in trouble, ask me. Don't ever be driven to close on something when you don't have the right advice. Don't allow anyone to pressure you, to push you to get things done before you're ready, before you have all the answers. Careful with that. Okay, so having said that, I'm signing off on yet another. Have a cup of coffee with me. I hope you had one. I didn't get mine. I had this, but it's pretty much for the office. And so enjoy yourself. Happy Father's Day. It's Dia del Padre tomorrow, Sunday in Mexico. So happy Father's Day to all those fathers out there. God bless you all. Take care. Until next time. Bye.